What's going on, you guys? You're tuned into the Cutting Room Knife Review. I'm your host, Garrett, and today we have a really cool review. We have the N.U.M B Knifeworks N1 Cornerstone.
What's up, guys? I'm Garrett. You're tuned into the Cutting Room Knife Review, where I review knives, blades, and all things sharp. Please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you more killer knife content.
And my buddy Matt from BRKT Designs was cool enough to send out this knife for me to review. So, quick plug for Matt. Shout out Matt. BRKT Designs makes these awesome knife trays. Go on Etsy, check out BRKT Designs. Get you one if you don't have one yet, and if you already have one, get a second. They're awesome. Matt's awesome. Matt sent us this knife to check out, so let's get into it. So, first what we have is we have this N1 Cornerstone card from N.U.M B Knifeworks, and it's got a little scannable on it, and it will probably be the certificate of authenticity information as well as probably information about this knife. So, really cool tin that it comes in. Real simple but clean. I dig it. We have the N1 Cornerstone. I've only had this knife for a couple days, you guys. I've barely just gotten to check it out. But from what I can tell, it's a pretty cool knife. It's really fidget friendly. It has a few unique little features to it that not a lot of knives have. And I like the aesthetics and the design. It's got definitely a futuristic feel to it. It's got some sharp angles mixed with some curves. All in all, I think it's built really well. So this is a Riot OEM, and as we know with Riot, they do great work. Riot does Chavez knives, OEMs. They do the OEM Berg blades. There's quite a few big names that use Riot as their OEM. I know that Arcane Designs has used Riot as well for an OEM. So lots of big names use Riot. This is no different. So what we have here is just a titanium scaled knife. It's got an S90B blade, nice hollow grind on it. It's a modified sheep's foot is what they're calling it. It has some really cool features to it. Like some of the coolest features I think is like the jimping up here on the knife. That's really unique. The jimping for your thumb is really far up the blade. So we wind up holding the knife like this, and we have a lot of control over the knife, and kind of gives it just a stylistic, like this is how you hold it in your hands. It's also really good for pinch gripping the knife. All in all, really interesting knife, real good looking knife. You know, I think it blends like straight lines with curves really well. And it has a pinch lock system on it. And this pinch lock is a new, pretty innovative locking mechanism that's been brought to market by this knife. This is the first knife that has the pinch lock on it. And it's different. It's different. It's definitely fidget friendly. How strong it is kind of, we're going to find out as this knife gets older. But otherwise, you know, it's a real fidget friendly knife. It's a pretty good looking knife in my opinion. It is an ergonomic knife. And all in all, a really nice on the compact side of medium everyday carry. So let's go over the specifications and the materials that make up the N1 Cornerstone. The N.U.M B Knifeworks N1 Cornerstone is a fairly compact knife. It's like about as small as a medium knife gets. I wouldn't call this like a full-on compact knife yet, or a small knife, but it's riding that edge. So overall, it's 7.2 inches, which is within my range of what I like to everyday carry. It has a blade length of 3.05 inches and a blade thickness of 0.118 inches. So good and substantial blade. The hollow grind keeps it slicey, It's interesting. It's kind of like a 2/3 to 3/4 hollow grind. Then it has flats up here. I really like how the grind is one direction, the flats have the grain in the different direction. I always love the two-tone feel of the knife. Now, the blade is S90V, the HRC is 60 to 62, and all that's appropriate. It's what we'd expect from Riot. We have a pinch locking mechanism. So the pivot assembly is caged ball bearings. The handle length of this knife is 4.28 inches, and the handle thickness is 0.45 inches, which is fairly thin. It's thinner than most knives. It's not quite as thin as like a Demko, and not quite as thin as like a skinny model of Hinderer, but very close to a skinny model of Hinderer. I'd say that's the closest thing it feels to. We're talking hundredths of an inch difference. Thousandths of an inch difference. It's a very small amount of difference that we're seeing in the knife. I think it's hundredths of an inch. We have really nice anodization on the hardware, the pivot, and the clip of this knife. The pocket clip works great on this knife. We have some really tasteful light blue hardware and pivot. We have this nice N on the show side of the pivot. I like how they fill in the ambidextrous lock side. So the show side where the lock or the clip isn't, they fill in the clip holes for the side that isn't being used with screws. I like it. I hate when they're left open. I hate feeling like there's a missing piece of my knife because it has a place for the clip to be ambidextrous, but they don't fill it in either with screws or, even better, a plate to keep it nice and uniform. Has a nice big titanium backspacer on it. As far as opening the knife goes, we have this finger hole or slot, and we have a front flipper. It all works great. Reverse flick is good. Thumb roll is great. Front flipper, is crisp, even though I'm not. It's actually a really nice front flipper. It doesn't fail much. I have trouble sometimes opening the knives when I'm under the camera. I don't have all the best amount of space, and I'm looking at the camera, not at my hands a lot of the time. So all in all, really comfortable knife. One of the most interesting aspects of the knife is where they ended up putting the jimping for the thumb. It's way up on basically the nose of the knife is what I'd call it, but way up the spine, which makes this knife is much more comfortable choked up. I feel like the knife needs to be held like this. I don't feel like holding the knife back here really feels like I'm holding onto the knife correctly. I do get some purchase with my pinky finger on this angle right here, like you would on a Chris Reeve and Cosi, the small and Cosi. But I feel like choking up on this knife, everything seems to really just fall into place. I have a lot of purchase of the knife with my two fingers and the two choils and the material that sits in between them, and then my thumb riding the spine. It feels very comfortable. But the jimping makes me want to put my thumb out in this little trough right here, and being that the knife standing up is like this, so it's a trough. But my thumb fits in there really well. It really gets me over and on top of the knife, whether I'm going to be chopping or slicing with the knife. A lot of control. It feels like the blade's kind of back into my hand a bit. I feel like a lot of times this would be the more comfortable place for my thumb. And it feels like it's not supposed to be here, being that the spine is smooth right here and it's jimped right here. It almost feels like this is where my thumb is supposed to go. I like how they did the trough right here. And if they would have just made flat jimping right here, I think it would have given you like two spots to put your thumb, and it would have felt more natural. And I would have been an even bigger fan of that. Not that this is incorrect by any means, but if I was going to add anything to this knife, that'd probably be one of the first things I added. So moving on to the locking system, we have the pinch lock right here. It has a nice detent as far as opening the knife goes. It's about the right amount of like snap to it, right amount of release. However, it pretty much just drops shut once we pinch the knife closed. And you're either gonna like that or you're not. But like, I don't find that I'm like able to release the lock and have it like catch the blade on the way down, almost like a clutch type of feeling that you can get with some like compression locks and even some frame locks or button locks or even crossbar locks. It just feels like it kind of drops. And some people are going to really love that. Other people, I think, are going to not be super fond of it. Basically what happens is as we push these in, we are releasing there's basically two like teeth that sit into the bottom tang of the knife like this. If you want to watch Metal Complex's episode and review of this knife, he actually takes the knife apart and shows you how the locking mechanism works. And that's the only way I would have known, because when this knife is open, you still can't really see inside what's going on you can kind of see what's going on when you pinch it closed, but it's easier to figure out once it's opened. And basically what's happening is there's two like little triangles like this that sit in and slide into a groove in the knife's tang on each side. And it pinches closed like this. We push the buttons in, it opens back up, and the knife can then fall freely. How strong that is, I don't know. Obviously, there's like, a bit of a spring pressure, and it's however much pressure these buttons are being pushed out by that's pushing in on the blade. And it feels locked up. I haven't stress tested this knife at all. I've tried to wiggle the blade. I've cut some paper with it. That's it. It's not my knife to beat up, so I'm not going to beat it up. So no torture testing this thing for me. But I will be talking to Matt as he uses it, and we'll find out how this locking mechanism stands up. And really, being that it's the first knife that's ever came out with this locking mechanism, it basically just, the test of time is what's going to tell. And we don't have the test of time on our side right now, as this knife just came out. There are, of course, a handful of YouTube reviewers that got to check out this knife before it was released, but I'm not cool like that yet. Someday I will be. So I'm checking it out after they did, but it is a comfortable knife. I will give it that. It is a nice size for everyday carry, being between 7 and 8 inches overall and 3 and 3.5 inches in blade length. I do like the thickness through the body. It stays thin. That's one of the nice things about this locking mechanism, is that it definitely is a space-saving locking mechanism, and it is ergonomically in a nice place. You don't really have to move your hands too far to pinch the knife. It's kind of a natural place to pinch and hold the knife as the blade comes to a close. You can pretty much just grab. It's pretty much where you're grabbing or close to it to do a reverse flick, as I ruin that take of the reverse flick. Anyway, it's a cool looking knife. I find that the knife kind of gives me Remet vibes. I've seen a lot of Remet knives kind of with these, angles, this point coming out towards the back, the sharp angle right here. When it's closed, we find that it has, with the exception of this back right here, a lot of very sharp, squared off angles. Once it's open, we kind of get more curves. And I kind of like that. I like how it opens up into kind of like a different aesthetic to the knife. It's a lot of curved angles when it's open. It's a lot of square angles when it's closed. It's neat. It's cool design. It's a cool design aesthetic. So, that being said, let's check out the N1 Cornerstone, how it stacks up to other knives that it's competing with. So, like always, the knife we compare to is, of course, the Para 3 from Spyderco. And as we can see, the Para 3 is actually a little bit bigger than this knife. And they end up having pretty close to the same cutting edge. In fact, the N1 Cornerstone might actually beat it out just a slight little bit in cutting edge. But as far as actual size goes, the Spyderco takes the cake. It would be the little curve to the Spyderco is going to wind up being more real estate in your hands than the straight body will be into the blade. Just this little curve just allows it to fill your hand up a little bit more. It allows kind of length to be shortened into the, the y-axis versus it all being on the x-axis. So, but it has a very similar feel to a para 3 as far as size goes. The way the blade is held in the hand, you'd be like this with the para 3. Maybe this is how you like to hold your para 3. I don't know. I tend to hold my para 3 back like this. It's a different feel than the para 3, but very similar in size. Now, the PM2, of course, is a lot bigger than this knife. So, as we can see, this is quite compact compared to the PM2. The PM2 basically being the biggest of medium-sized knives, the para 3 being on the small side of medium-sized knives. I'd say that this being even smaller than the para 3, but still over 7 inches, is about as small as medium gets. It is as compact as it gets while still being a medium knife. I basically have to choke up on it, but it is comfortable in my hand. Choked up, I still have some of the handle trailing off the back of my hand. So not what I would consider a completely compact knife. Now, there's some other knives that have been released that kind of give me vibes of this knife. Now, this knife weighs in at 3.95 ounces. So it's not the lightest thing in the world, but doesn't feel too heavy to me. It's actually a really nice weight. And it comes in at $350, the DLC version coming in at $360. It's I guess what it should cost for what it is. Now, the knives that kind of give me the same vibes of it as far as how I hold the knife and how I'm going to cut with it and how it just fits in my hand. I'm going to go through, I have 3 choices of knives that kind of seem similar to it. And the first one that seems the closest to it is the Devo Fireball 1.5. I get a really similar vibe with how this seems to fit in my hand. I seem to cut the same with this knife. I want to hold it in the same way. Now the handle fits differently in my hand. I mean, I kind of got a pistol grip on it where it's thicker up here where my index finger is. And the jimping is meant for my thumb to be back here, not so much up on it, but really how the blade sits in my hand is very similar. The cutting edge is very similar, albeit maybe a little bit more belly to this knife. However, they give me some similar vibes. Another one that gives me similar vibes, of course, is the 80 20.5 Shark Foot from Demco. Now, this knife does have a much flatter blade edge, and so the blade geometry is a little bit different, but how the knife sits in your hand, choked up, is once again almost the same. As you can see, we have like kind of a choil built into the knife, choked up. We have a choil for our middle finger, and this knife actually feels a lot like this knife. They have very similar feels in my hand, albeit a very flat sheep's foot, very rounded sheep's foot, hollow grind, flat grind. Other than that, pretty similar aesthetics. You know, it's flat back here. This has a curve right here, but really how it fits in your hand up towards the blade is very similar between these two knives. These two knives have similar price points. The earlier Demco, the earlier Devo is a little bit cheaper, and so is this knife. This is the Sailfin by White Mountain Knives and my buddy Patty at Patty's Knives, and the Sailfin is just a little bit bigger, but really I get a kind of similar vibe to it, how I hold this knife, although it is not a sheep's foot. It is a drop point. We do have, it's a not full hollow grind to it, but they kind of fit in my hand the same way. I got my thumb out here, got myself choked up on the knife. I find that I get kind of a similar feeling of this knife in my hand. They don't look the same, but I get a lot of the same kind of feel for it. This knife, again, I'm very on top of the blade. I feel like my hand up here is really up on top of it. I'm really can put all my force into the blade that none of the other blades that I showed today really allow for that much like ergonomics with my thumb this far out on the blade. Whether that's good for you or bad for you, that's going to be up to you, but you're definitely going to be able to put a ton of pressure and a ton being able to guide the knife very well all the way through the blade. Like there's no lack of control on this blade. Nothing's out away from your hand. Your hand's on top of the entire blade. So really unique. There are some similarities in certain knives, but really this thing is a fairly unique design. Heavy user, we'll find out if it's a heavy user in the future or more just of a flipper knife. Definitely a fidget friendly locking mechanism. How strong the locking mechanism is, that is out for determination as well. It seems very well put together, has really nice action to it, has a nice feel in the hands, good ergonomics. It's unique. I think it's aesthetic and good looking. All in all, I think it's a winner of a knife. I like this knife. Is it calling out to me to buy? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out whether I grab it on like the second run of them or not. I think that N.U.M.B Knifeworks definitely has a lot of potential. If this is their first design coming out, I think that the designs we're going to see in the future are something that we should look forward to. And I think that this locking mechanism is another locking mechanism that we should look forward to seeing with their knives. And we'll see how it holds up durability wise in the future. But until then, this is the N1 Cornerstone by N.U.M.B Knifeworks. Really cool knife. There might still be a few in stock out there in the plain stone wash. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure at the time of release of this video if there's going to be, but if there is, grab you one. And if not, I'm sure we'll look forward to another release of this model somewhere in the future. But until then, this is the N1 Cornerstone from N.U.M.B Knifeworks, and I am Garrett with the Cutting Room Knife Review. Until next time, you guys, stay sharp.